Good evening. I would like to call the July 23rd, 2026 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. A quorum is present. Our first order of business is the election of a chair pro tem. Are there any nominations?
I'll nominate Commissioner Farina Dawood to be Chairman Pro Tem.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I now turn the meeting over to the chair pro tem, Dawood.
Thank you. Item number 3, public comments. Do we have anyone signed up for public comments today?
No, Chair, we do not.
Moving on, item number 4A, minutes. Consideration of and action on the approval of the minutes for July 9th, 2026 meeting. Minutes are included in your packets. Does anyone have any revisions or corrections? May I have a motion?
A motion to approve?
A second?
Second.
Please vote. Thank you. Item number 5A, consideration of and action on the Ryehill Parkway Street dedication, Section 3, final plat, presented by Ethan Cantu. Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. So yes, tonight for you guys, I do have Ryehill Parkway Street dedication, Section 3, final plat. So let's get into it. Just a quick overview of Ryehill as we do before all these meetings. So City of Sugarland entered into a development agreement with Pointe Homes back in December of 2023 for a proposed 958-acre master plan community. It's going to be a mix of approximately 2,300 single-family residential and Del Webb residential lots. Those single-family lots are going to be 40, 45, 50, and 60-foot wide lots, and the Del Webb being 40, 50, and 65-foot wide. There are 60 acres of flex tract north of 2759. And right here is kind of the progress we've made on Ryehill. We've been making good progress recently. The area in green is going to be what's under consideration for tonight. And this is kind of where this is in relation to the overall general plan for Ryehill. So looking at the final plat, once again, this is for Parkway Street dedication, Section 3. So it's going to be 4.499 acres of land strictly dedicated for the roadway, so there's not going to be any lots, blocks, or reserves associated with this tract of land. It's located south of 2759, east of 762, and this part of Ryehill, or this Ryehill Parkway will connect to FM 762, which is located in Rosenberg's ETJ, and it's going to be a future extension of Reading Road. So this is just continuing Section 2, which you guys have seen previously. So back in May 22nd, 2025, the preliminary plat was approved at your meeting with 2 conditions. So the first condition being to show the existing 30-foot drill access easement, the drill site access easement on the face of the final plat, which they have done, and also to include a custom note for the abandonment of the 30-foot drill site access easement that may fall within the future right-of-way and fill in the recordation number, which they have also done, and you can view those on the face of the plat, which is right here. So the strip of land kind of to the southwest, or the little strip, that's going to be the access easement, and then note 40 is going to be the other part of that condition. So just where my mouse is, or right here, is going to be showing the access easement itself. So with that, staff does recommend approval of Ryehill Parkway Street Dedication Section 3 Final Plat, and I'm available for any questions if you guys have them at this time. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Ethan? Do I have a motion to approve Ryehill Parkway Street Dedication Section 3 Final Plat?
Yes. Unless there's questions.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Please vote. And we have a 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6 is a workshop review of and discussion of changes to Lake Pointe redevelopment zoning district. Welcome.
So I am not Jessica, but
I was
will be-
going to say that.
Yes, ma'am. But I will be presenting in her absence. She had a family emergency that she had to attend to, so thank you all for having me in her place. So with that being said, I will go ahead and start with an overview for tonight's workshop. So tonight is going to be a continuation of the June 25th workshop, which was the first proposed workshop for the third round of amendments for the Lake Pointe Redevelopment District. Throughout the duration of this workshop, we'll review the challenges and competing priorities that spawned during the design phase of Lake Pointe Green Section 1 and in the initial design phases of Phase 2. Some of these challenges including preserving the tree canopy and existing roadway network, considering the reuse of existing buildings within the site, maintaining the density initially envisioned for the development, while increasing code flexibility where appropriate. Additionally, we will review these recommended amendments to the Lake Pointe Development District Code, open the floor for commission discussion and feedback, and review next steps for the project. And then a little bit of background on Lake Pointe Redevelopment District. So initially this district was adopted back in December of 2023. This district contains the 52 acres of the floor site and also contains smaller properties with other acreages. The redevelopment concept plan was approved for the Borg campus back in May of 2025, with this redevelopment concept plan containing urban homes, townhomes, multifamily units, and flexible commercial tracts, with Levitt being the developer of this 52-acre tract. And then why do these amendments matter? So these amendments directly support the City Council's 3-year strategic action plan, and specifically the Fostering Sensitive Redevelopment key initiative. Lake Pointe is the key priority site for the city, and this redevelopment would be transformational for the city and would be a great redevelopment opportunity. So with that being said, staff has initiated these amendments to the Lake Pointe Redevelopment District to support these redevelopment opportunities as they arrive for the city. And then this is again going to be a little bit more beefed up timeline for the Lake Pointe Redevelopment District. So again, as I previously mentioned, the district was originally adopted back in December of 2023. In May of 2025, the first amendment to the Lake Pointe District went through, along with the redevelopment concept plan, which was approved at that time. Later on in that same year, the second amendment was brought forward for the Lake Pointe Redevelopment District, and then coming forward to 2026. Last month, we had the first workshop for this third round of amendments. Today, we have the second workshop for this round of amendments, with the hope that we'll be able to bring this item back to you again next month for a public hearing with consideration and action. And then this is just going to be a brief recap from the June 25th workshop. So some of the items that were discussed at that time was the pedestrian realm requirements, and specifically how those played in for substantial improvements and existing structures within the site. And additionally, we talked about increased flexibility for corner lots. And then some of the workshop, or some of the feedback that came out of that workshop was in clarifying that applicability for the pedestrian realm and when it applied, specifically pertaining to the existing parking garage within the site. Renaming the substantial improvement from substantial improvement to redevelopment, or major redevelopment, as this avoids any conflict with the FEMA definition found in Chapter 8 of the Development Code. Additionally, we did add that applicability section, which is the new subsection of the code, which again speaks to when these pedestrian realm standards apply, specifically when it comes to new buildings and major redevelopment of the existing parking garage within the site. And then also, since the last workshop, there have been some additional opportunities for change within the code that have been identified. Some of these include revisiting the side yard setbacks for corner lots on utility reserves for the urban homes, providing additional flexibility for the front door location for these urban homes, changing from a maximum 40-foot lot width to an average 40-foot lot width, and other miscellaneous items that we will go into further in this presentation. And then this is going to be the first proposed change. So again, looking at the side yard setbacks, but specifically when these lots abut either a utility reserve or sit on a corner lot. So the proposed change would allow for increased flexibility for the developer and would allow them to do a 0 and 3-foot side yard setback if they abut the utility reserve, provided they do provide that 3-foot maintenance easement along that 0-foot side. So trying to find the mouse, okay. So with that being said, so within these kind of red rectangles, these are going to delineate the utility reserve. So for example, if we come down in block 4, lot 2, and lot 3, hypothetically, you would be able to put one of the facades of the primary structure along this red line right here, again, provided that you do provide that 3-foot maintenance easement, and that maintenance easement would be established by the plat. Oh. Yes, ma'am.
Because this is a pretty intense stuff, and if
Yes,
we wait
if you have
towards
any
the end-
questions, please, yes, I'm so sorry. I meant to say that initially, but yes, please just feel free to interject. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm going to interject.
Cool. Okay.
Are you saying that the 0 lot line would be between lot 2 and
3 for block 4, yes, ma'am. So for example, okay, trying to find the mouse again. Yes, so they would be able to put that 0 lot line side right along there.
and where would the 3-foot maintenance easement go?
So that would be along that same lot line. So you would have the 0-foot right here, and then you would have that 3-foot abutting it.
And it would belong to lot 2 then?
So there would be one along lot 3, and there would be one along lot 2. So they would be to both of those property owners.
So each lot would have
The
3-foot
3-foot,
maintenance?
yes, ma'am. So they'd be able to maintain their property on that 0 lot line side. Yes, ma'am.
So what does then a 0 lot line mean for them?
So-
Because they can't really, if you have a maintenance easement, you can't really build on it, right?
So you would not be able to build on it, no ma'am, but that would be more so since that would not technically be their property that they would own within reserve queue. That would give them the ability to have that 3-foot allowance to do the maintenance that they need to do for their property and their structure for maintenance.
I see.
So
So they
essentially-
can, their development can butt up against the 3-foot, where the 3-foot ends, right?
So then, yes, it would be the 0, and then it would be 3, and then that would be the utility reserve. But again, it's to provide access so that property owner can actually maintain their property and do what they need to do for that
So
purpose.
each property owner would have a 3-foot maintenance?
If it abutted the utility reserve, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, any other questions?
So does that mean then that they would maintain that area? Who's going to maintain that area between,
So as far as like the landscaping and things like that?
I'm sure there's at least be grass there.
Yes, ma'am. So from my understanding, that would be the HOA that would maintain that. But again, the property owner does have that ability for that 3-foot allowance to maintain their property.
And then is the allowance only 6 foot then? Is the total easement only 6 foot, or is it a wider easement?
So it would only be 3 feet, but it would be on both sides of the utility
Right,
easement.
but I
So it
meant just
kind
the
of run-
total easement. If you looked at the total easement.
So like
there's
for the
3 foot
20
and there's
width for
3
the
foot.
entire reserve, 3 and 3. So yes, that would be 6, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Because I'm,
So the utility easement is 20. Oh, sorry, did not mean to knock that. So the utility easement would be 20, and then there would be a 3-foot maintenance easement on this side of the utility easement, and a 3-foot maintenance easement on that side of the utility easement.
so why is this being requested then? I mean, that we just saw the plat and there was a utility easement there. I mean, and you just said that it's going to be maintained by the HOA, so I doubt whether they would do landscaping. So why are we putting this in place?
To provide increased flexibility for the developer.
To do what?
To essentially get more developable land and to get a larger, I guess, kind of structure on the lot.
That's why it's going from average 40 foot to.
Well, I got a question on that one too.
Yeah, it's just so they can have the side of those homes along the 0 lot line.
But I
And
thought
then
we
they
already
would have-
agreed to a 0 lot line in one of the
We
other.
did, the other component
changes
of
we had.
this, the other component of this is that they would have a 3-foot setback, a maximum setback of 3 feet on the other side instead of 6 feet. So you would have different lot configurations. You could have a 3 and 3, you could have a 0 and 6, you could have a 0 and 3. And so it's as long, on the 0 side, as long as there's a 3-foot maintenance easement that property owner can access through that other easement to be able to maintain their property. And then, which would apply in any situation. If there is a 0 lot line, we would need and that property owner would need a access easement on that 0 side. In this case, it would be on an easement versus someone else's property.
But I thought I just heard the total easement is 20 foot?
The utility easement.
Right, so aren't we talking about the utility easement, or are we now just talking about the space between the buildings,
So there,
each structure?
This is the utility easement here. So this rectangular,
Yeah.
areas, reserve is a utility easement.
so we're, oh, sorry, trying to share the mic a little bit, very tall. So with that being said, there's kind of two different easements that we're talking about here. One would be the utility easement, which would deal with the actual wet, dry utilities, those types of things for services. But the 3-foot easement would be a maintenance easement. So those two would overlap, but they would have different functions.
So it's, if they wanted to paint the side of their house then?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Or, say a window is broken, needs to be repaired, there's a leak, a gutter, potentially, a myriad of things. But yes, ma'am.
But then how would that work in what, Lisa, you just described, where one might have 0 and the other one might have 6? I mean, however they put them on the lot. So the person with the 0, how would they get to their side to do maintenance?
Then that, you would always need a 3-foot maintenance easement, but it would just be on, whether it's on a utility easement or it's on your neighboring property, which is the way 0 lot line homes or communities
So
work.
this is just to clarify, you're cutting out some of the utility easement to make it a maintenance easement, but the whole thing is really a utility easement.
Correct, yeah, there's kind of layering of easements there. So one is just allowing the 0 and 3, and then also specifying in the code that 3-foot maintenance easement is needed over the utility easement.
So let me ask this then. So if I have a townhouse, I mean, I guess some of the townhouses are gonna be butted up against each other?
They'll be adjoining,
Joining.
attached.
So then you really only need maintenance on one side and the other for any outside wall?
If there isn't an attached side, then yes, there would either need to be enough space on their own property, or there would need to be, if there were utility reserve, then they would need to have 3 feet available for an access easement.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on this slide before we move on? Okay, just wanted to make sure. Please feel free again to interject. And then these are going to be essentially kind of like the draft code language as far as that goes for the side setback requirements. Okay. And then the next change that we were proposing is going to be changing the maximum 40-foot lot width requirement to an average 40-foot lot width requirement. And this will be reviewed per platted section, so this would be ensured at each plat that came through. Additionally, staff is also proposing to reinstate the minimum housing density requirement, which would come in at 10 dwelling units per gross acre.
So
And-
I've got a
oh,
question.
I-
So how are you going to, what's the calculation for an average 40-foot lot? And I mean, does that have to then, whichever area is plotted, then you just take them all into account, as long as
Yes,
it
ma'am.
averages to 40?
Correct, and that would be per platted section. So section 1 would have its own calculation, section 2, 3, so on and so forth.
So since we've already seen the preliminary plot, I mean, now could all change now?
It could potentially, but they are already in compliance with this regulation. I don't believe there's any appetite to go back through and redesign, go back through the preliminary approval process, but I think this is more so for the upcoming sections that we'll see for Lake Point Green.
Yeah, because right now, everything was specified as a specific lot size.
Yes,
So what we'll see next is varying
correct, yes, ma'am.
blocks, is what you're
Potentially.
saying.
The potential for that, yes, ma'am.
And who's going to be accountable for ensuring that it's at least an average of 40?
Planning and Development Services staff will.
Okay,
I had a
thank you.
question.
Yes, sir.
I think it's spelled out here, but just confirming, what does this do for the density? Does it change the overall density or the maximum dwellings allowed?
So currently, there is no minimum density requirement that is in play for the Lake Point redevelopment district, so we would be reinstating that to ensure that we're still meeting the development density originally envisioned. Any questions? Okay, beautiful. All right. Then moving, yep, okay, beautiful. And then this is going to be kind of like a development density synopsis that we have for Lake Point Green Section 1. So the preliminary plat that was brought for y'all a couple weeks ago had about 7.74 acres of land. If you look at the gross density, which is essentially calculated based off of the entire area within the platted lot. So that would include right-of-ways, that would include utility easements, roadway networks, that type of item. They have a density of 12.53 dwelling units per acre. If you then take out those kind of extra items, you know, the right-of-ways, the roadways, utility networks, and other non-developable spaces, they have a net density of 18.6 dwelling units per acre. So they are still within that 10, you know, minimum 10 dwelling unit per acre requirement as is, but this is just kind of being put in place to ensure that they're still maintaining that with that kind of average. And then this is going to be the proposed language for the density minimum and the urban home average lot width.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you say average lot width 40 feet, shouldn't it say per block then?
We could look into that to see if that might be something. I know we were looking at it on more of like a sectioned basis, but that could always be something we could look into as well.
I'd also think, I mean, we would want to do that at one of the preliminary plots, but you're saying that we would only review it at the final plot.
So this would be done at both the preliminary plat and for the final plat, but just since we've already processed the preliminary plat for section 1, they don't have too much of a desire to go back and redesign that and go through that approval process. So this would come into play for the upcoming sections of Lake Point Green.
Okay.
Oh, do you have any questions? Oh, okay, beautiful. Just want to make sure. Okay, and then another proposed change to the Lake Point redevelopment district was adding those applicability standards. So again, trying to get a better understanding of when those additional development standards apply, specifically when it comes to an existing structure and also new buildings in a major redevelopment, with the major redevelopment being defined as essentially the conversion of an existing building that has one principal use to another principal use. So that would be the definition for that. And then another proposed change would also be to include increased flexibility to allow for the primary entrance for the primary structure to be located on the side facade of the structure, so long as they are facing a utility reserve and as long as they provide a minimum 5-foot pedestrian walkway connection to the MU. Did y'all have a question? Just want to make sure I wasn't overstepping
So I
y'all.
had a question.
No questions from me.
I
okay.
had one on the, I mean,
yes,
so,
ma'am.
Go
so
ahead.
basically what you're saying is that people will have an entrance to the house on the side of the house.
Correct. But this would only apply if this abuts the utility reserve. So going, oops, wrong way. Okay, so only if they abutted the utility reserve would this option come into play. So it wouldn't be that very many lots. Oh, yes, ma'am.
So their front door is going to be in the utility easement?
Yes, ma'am, as so long as they meet those other caveats. Yes. So they would have to, again, they would have to face that utility reserve, and then they'd also have to provide that pedestrian walkway connection that would still connect them to the MUs.
And I guess that 3 feet that they're supposed to get if they want to do something so that their front door doesn't look like you're coming in through the garage?
Yes, ma'am. So then, yeah, that would be where, oh, sorry, I thought she was saying something. That would be
I
where
mean,
the
that's what I would see it as.
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am.
you come in from that side door. I mean, usually there's really nothing out by your side door if you're coming in through the garage. I mean, it doesn't, I guess aesthetically, it just looks strange to me. I mean, you basically will have all these houses, and then all of a sudden, you're gonna have a side of a house and that coming through the, I mean,
The
you'll have the
reserve.
front of the house not look really like a front of the house. It'll be on the side. And besides that, they'll be in the utility easement.
Correct, yes, ma'am. And then they'll also still have that buffer as well for the 3-foot
And so
maintenance.
what does this provide the developer?
This provides some increased design flexibility, and they're also trying to create less kind of stagnant, kind of like plain block faces, so this gives them the flexibility to have a little bit more design creativity.
Okay, I just don't see the, yeah, I see that as being very strange design.
So to follow up on that, So you're saying that there could be a side entrance which is butting up against the utility
So
easement?
it would be on the side facade, but it would function as the primary entrance.
Right, right, that's fine. But the question is that it is along the lines of utility easement, right?
So it would be within a utility reserve, but then you would still have that 3-foot platted maintenance easement. That would still give you kind of that little, I guess, buffer for
So-
your property maintenance and access and whatnot.
So you're saying that that entrance, when that happens, would be abutting a 3-foot maintenance, and then there would be the utility reserve or
So the maintenance easement and the utility would overlap, but yes, ma'am.
okay, they could overlap because it
So it
could
would
be a
be-
scenario where it's a zero lot line.
Correct.
And it could be a scenario that that zero lot line has a side entrance.
Correct.
And so so now what you're asking for is an access easement to the front door.
Yes, ma'am. But if this was put on that zero lot line, there would still have to be that maintenance easement provided, even if that front entrance was on the front of the facade or on
Right,
that side facade.
Right. I understand. I understand what you're saying. So, but what I'm saying is that because it's a utility reserve, it could be dug up, right?
Potentially, yes.
Potentially, and it's a maintenance easement as well. But now it needs a third, which is an access easement.
So
The
the
right
maintenance
to
easement
access the
would
front
function
door.
as the access easement, so it would just be the two. So the maintenance easement does give them that access and path of travel to that
Okay.
area.
Would that be clarified in the way the easements are written, that this maintenance easement will also function as an access easement? Because now we're talking about access to a primary home.
Correct. So there would be also connecting from the Muse through the maintenance easement to the primary entrance, which is on the side. There would also need to be a pedestrian access. So there would have to be a third access, yes, yep. Or a
Right.
third easement, I
But-
guess I could say, yeah.
But at the time that they're doing the purchase, the buyer would have to know that their whole front step could be dug up.
Yes, absolutely. And that would be in the private restrictions. That is where those responsibilities would be lined out in terms of who would be responsible for replacing if, for example, the sidewalk were needed to be torn up. We've got access easements across all kinds of easements throughout the city, and that's typically how it is handled, is through the private restrictions.
Do you then want to put that somewhere in, do you want to codify it somehow so to ensure that there is access or pedestrian easement that would be necessary to overlap that?
I think we attempted to do that in section 2-122A1. Sorry. Ooh.
Section
Sorry, guys.
2-.
There is a statement there that says, let me put my glasses on so I can see.
2-122?
Mm-hmm.
Let me get
Yep.
there. 6. 2-122.
A1,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yep. We say 5-foot wide paved sidewalk connection, so if that also needs to say access easement.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think so.
Okay, good clarification.
Thank you.
Yep. Mhm.
On those particular lots, that would be the zero lot line side.
For that the primary entrance, or that the
Right.
primary entrance on the side facade would be on, yes, sir.
So normally on zero lot line sides, there's no windows or nothing on it. So in your drawing, you could see windows on it.
So this is
You're
just,
gonna be allowed to have windows on that zero lot line?
so no, sir, this is just a speculative rendering. This is not indicative of what this
Okay.
will look like any way, shape, or form as far as like building finishes, number of windows, anything like that. This is
Okay.
just kind of to illustrate that.
So it would just be just the entrance in there,
Correct, yes, sir.
but no other windows or anything else on
No,
that eastern
sir.
side?
No, sir.
Okay.
So based upon that discussion, I have clarity then. So if it's a zero lot line, how can you have a stoop for your door? Because you would be zero lot, I mean, your lot is right there at your building.
So you would not be, so you could have that within that, but you would not be able to overhang, say, onto an adjacent lot or adjacent property. And that applies for our zero, like we have currently our 1Z zoning district, our zero lot line, that also applies there as well. Like it essentially, even if you have like an eave, it has to cut and it can't overcroach that 0 foot.
Okay, thanks.
Any other, just make sure, questions? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay, beautiful. And then we'd also made some changes to the Chapter 10, which also reflected some of the definitions that were applicable to the Lake Pointe redevelopment district. One of those was changing the substantial improvement definition and revising that to the major redevelopment definition, which is essentially, again, the conversion of an existing building on the site from one principal use to a different principal use. Kind of just touched on that, but we had removed that substantial improvement definition just to avoid any conflict with the FEMA definition for substantial improvement located in Chapter 8 of the Development Code. Staff has also added a utility reserve definition, which again essentially just speaks to a parcel of land that's been dedicated on a plat that's reserved for utility purposes. Just some miscellaneous items that we had spoken to earlier. Again, just updating the definition of mu to muse, and then converting numeric symbols to numeric text, just to increase clarity and consistency throughout the code as well. And then the following slides are going to be just a summary of the proposed amendments y'all have heard before you today. So the first of which is the pedestrian realm, which would provide flexibility in the pedestrian realm standards where an existing parking garage would abut a street. The parking garage setback standards, which would clarify how setbacks are measured for parking garages. The building design applicability, which would add the caveat that a pedestrian realm would not be required along the length of an existing parking garage, again, provided that there's a pedestrian realm located on the opposite side of the street. We're adding the major redevelopment definition, which is, again, the conversion of an existing building on the site from one's principal use to another principal use. And then modifying the average lot width requirement from a maximum lot width of 40 feet to an average lot width of 40 feet per platted lot section, adding back in the minimum density requirement of 10 dwelling units per gross acre, modifying the utility easement and corner lot setbacks, which would allow for corner lots and lots abutting an easement to apply a setback of 0 feet on one side and 3 feet on the other, again, provided that there's a 3-foot maintenance easement on that 0-foot side. Modifying the urban home entrance requirements, which would allow for the primary entrance to be located on the side facade of the home when the lot abuts a utility reserve, provided that the 5-foot sidewalk connects the primary entrance to the MU. Again, adding the term of the utility reserve, which again essentially speaks to a portion of land on the platted lot that has been dedicated for utility purposes. And then again, just simple modification of the MU's definition, adding the S at the end of that, and then again, cleaning up those numeric kind of items for clarity and consistency throughout the code. Oops, sorry. Any questions on those? Yes, sir.
Do you have any drawings of where the pedestals for the electrical are going to be in relation to each lot line?
So they are still undergoing negotiations with CenterPoint kind of regarding electrical services and things like that. So not at this time, as they're still under discussion with CenterPoint.
Do you know how the proposed entrance of each one of those pedestals to the electricity to each homeowner's house, how it's going to be laid out? Is it going to go through the easements, or is it going to go to the front of each of the houses, or is it going to go to the back, to the garage side? How is that going to run? And then with the streets or the pedestals going to be at the back part where the driveways are, or is it going to be in the front?
It's going to be along the alleys based off of the plat and the utility layouts that we've and the developer's been working with CenterPoint on. Those will be in a 10 by 5, I believe, easement or space along the alley, which will be along the rear.
Okay, and the sewer lines, are they going to be run in the back on the alley side, or are they going to be in the MU side? Because that would make a big difference in when you're building these houses, if they're not going to be built all at the same time, digging up somebody's front yard to put the sewer tap in. Are they going to be in the front, or are they going to be in the back?
I can't remember. We've gone back and forth as CenterPoint has kind of changed their design and their preferences.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember off the top of my head right now without having the plat in front of me where those landed. I can't remember if they were going to be in the MUs or if they're going to be on the alley side. So sorry, I don't have that information top of mind.
And the last thing, some of those easements, those 3-foot easements, are some of those being used to save the trees? Are the trees in those easements? Because that's what I was thinking a good use of those would be, to try to move the houses and where the trees would be in the front
Yeah.
of that easement? Is that part of the reason for those easements?
Frank, do you know?
The
if there's-
easements for what?
Throughout the development, yeah. There's not the 3-foot maintenance easements. Is that what you're talking
Yeah, I was
about?
talking about the 3-foot
No.
maintenance easement. No?
If I can recall, no. There may be some areas within like the Muse, and those areas, there's some dedicated like open space, green space reserves that there are trees that are being preserved. But for the access easement, to provide the maintenance, I don't think there were any that were within those
How many of
areas.
those easements were on this first plat? Do you know how many?
Which ones?
Those 3-foot easements,
Yep,
we could only see like
they wouldn't have been
3 of
shown on the
them
preliminary.
in that one little section. But when you zoom out, I can see that there's another row of them to the right of that drawing. So they're following a line. And I was just curious if that was to save some of those large trees out there to align some of those easements in the Muse area where the trees most likely were gonna be.
There may be in some of those instances, but specifically the maintenance easement
Yeah.
access, like those wouldn't have been shown, because at that time, at least in phase or section 1, they weren't contemplating any of the 0 and 3, at least for now. It was always 0 and 6 if they were having a 0 side setback kind of condition for a lot.
Okay, and the last thing is, when the development starts and they start selling the houses, are they gonna go in an order, or is it just gonna be however they can sell each individual lot?
Yeah, I don't know if the developer knows
Well, we will
that
try to
information
be
yet.
in order.
If
We'll
you could
probably
state
start-
your name. Could you please introduce yourself? Thank you.
Okay, yes, my name is Frank Liu. I'm the developer of Lake Point Green. We would like to do it in order. I think that we're shooting for starting on the 3rd row. The townhouses may also start at the same time.
Because building 0 lot lines, sometimes for the guy that's actually building the house, is pretty difficult. If you have,
These houses, for the most part, none of these houses are really 0 lot lines. I mean, they all have 6 foot between houses. So there shouldn't be too many issues like that. There'll be usually all of them will have 6 foot between houses.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Are you just talking about this phase 1 that has the 6 foot between all the houses?
I think all the faces will essentially will have 6 foot between houses, unless they're townhouses.
So why are
So,
we
yeah.
talking about 0 lot
So
lines
they,
then?
they will be 0. What we call 0 is when you're on at least
Yeah.
one side.
Uh-huh.
So, but also there will always be, whether it's a 0 and 3, a 0 and 6, there is always going to need to be 6 foot between structures on the adjacent lots, or lots that are adjoining. So so there will be 0. There could be 0 and 3, 0 and 6, but there will always be 6 feet. So of separation for structures, yes.
So
That's what we call 0 lot line.
will they be built like the normal typical 0 lot line house with no windows on the 0 lot line?
So that's where
And no overhangs?
there won't be any overhangs. Windows, there will be windows. That is where we're getting into the building code, and so there is some allowances for windows.
Obscure windows or block?
Or fire rated and things like
Okay.
that. So there are some opportunities, or there's some allowances for windows and transparency and things like that.
Okay.
Yep. And I know the developer's been working with our building official on how to work through all of that.
I just had a quick clarification on the document, the update document. At the very beginning, where you have references, where you added in about the existing parking garage will be measured from the property line, and then the other one measured from the property line. So I didn't know if both of those still needed to be in there, or if that was just,
Which section?
yeah, it's in the reference sections, it's like page 2. So I can't give you a, it's above B, if that helps. In the document. It's where you added the change about the parking garage
Needing
being
to be
measured from the
measured
property
from the
line.
property line?
And then B, it says measured from the property line.
Okay, that may,
So I thought
we'll look at that, yeah, that note may apply to something else,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
just thought it might be
we'll look at it.
confusing when you, if you lift that in there.
Sure.
Yeah. And the other thing, I think, I realize that we're getting all these amendments as the developer's going through and, we need to do this or this, but do we feel that we're far enough along the line with the development that we won't see any more, with a whole bunch of tweaky changes like this? Or is it still potential that we'll see changes to the development code?
There could be. I can't stand up here with a straight face and tell you with 100% certainty that there won't be additional changes. But again, I think we've been working with the developer and we think these are reasonable and we're committed to making this a successful development. And so we think these are reasonable changes that help support the development overall.
Yeah. I just think this design about having the entrance on the side and then having everything else in the front just seems...
It is unique.
Strange.
It's unique, and I think, but also from a standpoint of how and when it could be applied is very limited because there aren't a lot, at least in the first section that we saw, and I think it'll hold true for the others. There won't be that many instances where lots are adjacent to a utility easement as well. So that will also kind of limit it in terms of how it can be applied and when it can be utilized. But overall, it helps provide, the opportunity for some variety in just how the houses are designed and laid out on, on the lots.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
I have a question. This existing garage, what is the plan for that?
It will be, so there's multifamily that will be going in that area and it will serve to support the multifamily development.
So it's going to be preserved in place?
Correct, yes.
So when it is on a zero lot line, essentially, right? And I'm not familiar with how the garage is laid out. So the question is that because it's existing when a car is egressing, does it have an opportunity to come to a full stop before it merges with the traffic? Because at zero lot line, there is no opportunity for a shoulder or neck, as we call it.
If I'm recalling correctly, I believe the side that is zero does not have any access. So it's a straight line wall with no access, and I don't think that they are proposing to create access
On that side.
on that side. Yeah.
Because if they were to come back and say, we want to access or we want to, do something, then we would need to have the car come to a full stop before it merges.
We would have to look at that. Right.
And so that side does not have any sidewalk,
Nope.
any safety setback. Another potential car could be driving within 2 feet of that
There is,
wall.
I believe there's 10 feet of landscape area and trees that are between it and the drive or the street, what will be the street.
So those 10 feet are part of HOA? If it's a zero lot line, then does that 10 feet belongs to the garage property or it belongs to the HOA? How does that work?
I do not know that answer off the top of my head. It either is HOA or it's within the right of way. I can't recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's the city. Yeah, I think it's in the city right of way. Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Could be a city right away.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions for you? Okay, beautiful. Okay, and then just some points for consideration before we move into the discussion. If we would like to continue that, I know we've had a little bit of hearty discussion thus far, but just some points to consider. Again, the amendments to this Lake Pointe Code does support the city's redevelopment goals and specifically the city's strategic action plan and most specifically the fostering sensitive redevelopment. These code amendments would still maintain the vision for the original Lake Pointe redevelopment district, but still increase flexibility for the developer where appropriate. Staff is still hoping to maintain the density by re-implementing those density requirements, and this would preserve the existing development pattern that's currently currently on the floor campus by preserving the trees and vehicular network. And then the proposed next steps for the project will be to host this workshop tonight with y'all, followed by questions, discussion with y'all, and then hopefully to bring this item back to you guys on August 27th for a public hearing with consideration and action, and then subsequently back to City Council for a public hearing in first and second reading. And then any additional questions?
Thank you. Item number 7, it's a report from Commissioner Hart, who's not present today. Did anyone else attend that meeting that has a comment to share? Nothing, okay. Moving on to item number 7B, the city staff report.
Yes, all right. Your next meeting is August 13th. I had to recall real quickly. I know we have at least one plat, if not a handful of plats that will be coming forward. And then we are determining if there are any other items that will be ready for you. So at least one item, a plat.
Thank you. Having no further business, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Adjourned.